Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahabushai, Bahasham, Rakahakwadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahabushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you, sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya coming at you with another lesson. I'm going to start it off in Isaiah chapter 19, verse 2. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight, everyone against his brother and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And this is talking about the modern day spiritual Egyptians as pursuant to Revelation 11, verse 8. These Americans, specifically these American Edomites, are so-called white people. And you can clearly see that tensions are brewing between, Edomites on the right, Edomites on the left, especially over that recent shooting up in Minnesota with, I think her name's Renee Good. And, another thing, too, you got a lot of these Edomites getting in an uproar that you so-called Negroes who are the tribe of Judah aren't doing anything about it. Well, hey, this civil war that's coming isn't our fight, though you tribes and other heathen nations that are in America are going to get caught up in it. This is mainly the fight between these Edomites, and they can clearly see, that a fight is coming, which is what I'll be going into with this lesson with two clips, showing this growing sentiment of a second civil war in America. But the first clip I'll be going to is on a Homestead Journeys YouTube channel titled Americans, Egyptians Believe Civil War is Coming. Neighbor against neighbor, brother against brother, city against city, and are quietly preparing. And this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes. And I'm going to play the first couple of minutes of it.
Things are about to get considerably worse in America.
This is it, guys. This is the tipping point.
We are walking our way right into a state versus federal conflict.
We are at the start of the American Civil War.
She says state versus federal. Again, city against city, kingdom against kingdom. And you'll notice that it's in this clip, Edomites talking about a civil war coming. Like I said at the beginning of the video, this is mainly the fight of these Egyptian Edomites.
This is what it's going to take. It's literally going to be a group of people using their First Amendment right.
With all of the political divide in this country, things are so polarized in terms of opinions, and with the intense situations that continue to happen practically on a daily basis, more and more people are really talking about the potential of civil war in this country. They're going online, they're voicing their opinions and their thoughts, and I find it really interesting that this is kind of trending right now, and I haven't seen this in a while.
And with the Homestead Journey, with the way she's moving, she's looking to be a perfect candidate for Isaiah chapter 13. Those of, our people or other nations that are, trying to come together and still be in this we are one American spirit. The Lord is about to break that shit into pieces. And, when this civil war, and there are going to be race wars in it as well, martial law and chaos comes to the streets of America. If you're not found only amongst your own people and you're found amongst another nation of people, you're going to get put down, as it says in Isaiah 13. They that try to hold hands with them shall be thrust through with the sword. Their houses shall be ravished, their wives spoiled, and their children dashed to pieces. Because, with this lady, A Homestead Journey, you can tell, she's in that American dream spirit. Oh, the plight of these so-called white people in America, which, fuck Babylon and fuck these Edomites here. This is a beautiful judgment that's coming down on both of them. And, I don't know if she is or not, but hey, she might be married to an Edomite, which again, Isaiah 13, if that's the case, perfect candidate for it, but that's neither here nor there.
Bro, I'm just done. I just want to know when we light the torches and get the pitchforks, because we just need to burn this down and start the over. So, you with me?
It's time to leave the country. 100%. It's time to leave. That rhetoric on Greenland and everything else and Gestapo in the streets, it's time to leave. Because it's either going to be fighting in the streets, a world war, or just straight up authoritarian regime and everybody just doesn't care.
How about all of the above? Because all those things are exactly what's coming.
Or they're too apathetic to care, and I'm not like that. I'm getting my kids the out of here, and I suggest you all do the same. Give your kids a better life. Get them out of this country.
I'm going to tell you guys what's coming, okay? Because I think we need to be very clear-eyed about what's coming, and it's very obvious. On the second day of this year, I posted a video, and I said that I very strongly feel like 2026 is giving resolution, but through a lot of struggle and strife and very negative stuff. But that it's necessary to get to where we need to be. Well, we're not even that many days into this year, and I am already being proven right. Here's what's coming, folks, okay? Be prepared. We are walking our way right into a state versus federal conflict.
I wanted it here because the rest of the video is just those highlight clips from the first couple of minutes, playing out in full. But, you got the gist of it. You see mainly Edomites talking about civil wars coming and the need to take up arms against, this tyrannical government, which is exactly what's going to play out. But now I'm going to go to my second clip on Kim Iverson's YouTube channel titled America's Civil War is Inevitable. And not just because these experts say it, but first and foremost because biblical prophecy says it. And I'm going to start the video at the 11-minute and 39-second mark. And this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. Again, it's simply for educational purposes.
The worst freaking state to live in right now is Louisiana, and nobody's talking about it.
Hey, I can agree with that guy on that. Louisiana's a complete shithole.
Everything you're saying, it makes me wonder. I mean, when Trump won his first term, and there was a lot of talk about, Trump wants to be a king, Trump wants to do XYZ thing, and there was a lot of Trump wants to, usher in martial law, Trump wants a civil war, Trump wants to be a king. And during his first term, I thought, wow, these people are really, Trump derangement syndrome. I mean, they're not seeing straight. But now with this term, I got to be honest, I sit there and I think, so there he is almost every day proving the Democrats right. I mean, he's proving those who are saying this guy is out for power. He's proving them correct almost every single day. I mean, he's sitting at the White House salivating over somebody giving him a Nobel Peace Prize. Like he's so, he's just so just focused on all of these strange things that are about boosting himself. I mean, it's just the most bizarre thing to ever see. But it makes me wonder.
Hey, back in Isaiah chapter 19, verse 4, and the Egyptians, the Americans will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord, Yahweh of hosts. And Trump, Nero 47, as we affectionately call him, is looking to be very well be this cruel Lord and this fierce king set up over Egypt. Because what did Kim Iverson just say? Hey, all those people that were saying he's trying to become a king and a dictator and all that, seems they're being proven right. And, before he was selected to be the 47th president, he was saying all kinds of crazy stuff like, if you vote for me this time, you'll never have to vote again. You had Elon Musk talk about, this is going to be the last elections. And then, there was that book going around with eerie similarities to Nero 47 called The Last President. And, Babylon, Egypt, America doesn't look like it's got too much longer. And remember, his, puppet masters, the elites, they've got their agenda, 2030 that they want to have everything fully rolling by then, they're NWO. So, hey, As it says in Revelation 12, verse 12, the devil is come down in great wrath because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. Nero 47 is the perfect guy to push through all these draconian measures. And look how he's moving with this whole, situation with ICE. That agent that deleted Renee Good, he got pardoned. And now he's talking about the Insurrection Act. It's a very exciting times we're living in.
When you say, look, there would, because you've got people around him now, like you mentioned, Miriam Adelson and Steve Bannon and others, Alan Dershowitz, who are saying, yes, there is a possibility. There's an avenue for a third term. There's an avenue for him to not give up power. And they're trying to create those conditions. And then the question is, well, what the heck are those conditions? Because only really extreme situations would that be considered okay by the American people.
Hey, never let a good crisis go to waste. Order out of chaos.
Have to create chaos in order for that to happen. And it makes me wonder, now going backward to 2019, to the end of 2019, when COVID first came around,
And when that movie came back in 2024, it was very cryptic. But as we're, as we're in 2026 and it's going forward, it's making a hell of a lot more sense. That movie, Civil War, which go back and rewatch it if you haven't seen it or it's been a minute since you've seen it, because there's several key, talking points within that movie. There's a scene where the US dollar was worthless and people were using Canadian money to buy things. The president, the guy who played the president in that movie eerily had a resemblance to J.D. Vance. And then there was one scene where you had, the reporters, the main characters talking about hypothetical questions they would ask the president if they got the chance to interview him before the Western forces got him. And some of the questions included, Mr. President, why did you authorize airstrikes on U.S. citizens? Think about the Insurrection Act, National Guard and troops getting deployed, and we already got citizens getting put down or shot at by ICE. And another question, Mr. President, why did you disband the FBI? Which, with those EP-STIN files, that's all just a circus and distraction. But what? You've got the FBI investigating it. So, hey, take what you will from that. But let's continue.
Was that a plan of theirs? And then they tried that, and it turned out a pandemic was not enough to get us to stick with the same leader, right? We did still have an election. We did still make that change. But so if they tried, like you say, some sort of an emergency, well, they tried one of the biggest emergencies of our lifetime, probably the biggest emergency of our lifetime, which is COVID at this point. So what would they try next? And I think you might be right. It would have to be, I think, a civil war. I don't even think war with Iran would be enough, because we've been at war many times and we still switch over presidents. So it would have to be a civil war, right?
It would have to be a civil war, exactly. And all the conditions are in place now for a civil war. You have a polarized information landscape where people just live in their own bubbles. So you look at the shooting in Minnesota, and both the left and the right are absolutely convinced they're right. The left is convinced that this is an innocent woman who was killed for no reason. The right is actually convinced that she is a provocateur. She went in to resist authority. She did this. She tried to run over the officer, and the officer did it in defense. And there's actually no reconciliation between these two sides. They all live in their own.
And remember what Yahushua, the Son of the Most High, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus, said in Mark chapter 3, verses 24 to 25. And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And we can clearly see that the United States of America is divided on damn near every level you can be divided on, from politics, religion, science, gender, race, etc., etc. And if a house or a race, a nation of people be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And we can clearly see the house of Esau in America is divided, especially along political lines, right versus left, red versus blue. And as this Moabite's going into, especially over this shooting of Renee Good, a lot on the right say she instigated the situation. A lot on the left said, she was an innocent victim. And you got both sides heavily voicing their opinions about it. I saw a video from Kyle Kalinski's channel, Secular Talk, show a guy who was up there protesting her shooting, saying, look, we can't wait till the midterm elections. Screw the ballot box. We need to get to the bullet box. Egyptian against Egyptian, brother against brother, neighbor against neighbor.
On social media bubbles.
But is that going to lead? Is that enough? Historically, I mean, what has reeled people to the point of picking up a gun and shooting at their own family members? Because that's what happens in a civil war. Things have to get really bad.
Look, the reality is that both the Democrats and Republicans have certain paramilitary factions that will incentivize and propel a civil war. Okay, so the Republicans have these white nationalist groups, the Proud Boys. The Democrats have, Antifa. So these are street gangs that they can.
Agent provocateurs, which I believe, what do they call themselves? The 3% or the 5%, the Oath Keepers, which that goes back to how it was only 3 or 5% of the colonial population in the 13 colonies that started and fought, the Revolutionary War and won. So what they're saying is, look, we don't need the whole population. We just need 3 or 5% to get things popping off. And those that are in those percentages are what? Considered the hardliners, like your Proud Boys, your Antifas.
Ploy in order to achieve certain political purposes. The reality is that the oligarchy benefits from a civil war because you have this massive discontent. And historically, either the people engage in a civil war or they engage in revolution. So do you prefer revolution or do you prefer civil war? Also, right now, what's happening in Washington is this massive conflict among certain deep state factions. And I don't think people really appreciate the level of conflict right now in Washington, D.C.
A house divided against itself cannot stand. So not just are there divisions between your average everyday Americans, but within, these elite circles, there are different factions vying for power and pushing their agenda to move the country in the direction they want it to go in by their means.
And traditionally, historically, the way that these conflicts among the elite are settled is through civil war on the streets. The people are sacrificed in order to achieve certain political agendas. And so I think that what's going to happen is that over the next few weeks, Trump is going to continue to antagonize his opponents. ICE is going to provoke the people. You'll have random shootings of ICE agents. And then you'll have martial law, National Guard will come in. And these things can escalate really quickly. And then you'll have these secret agents, deep state agents, working among insurrection groups, organizing them, encouraging violence, teaching them how to sabotage. So if you just look at movies like Civil War and...
Hey, that's the spirit. But we'll have to see what plays out over the next couple of weeks and if they play out like or similar to what this Moabite's saying. But regardless, we know that that's the path this country is moving towards. This is 2 Esdras chapter 15 in the Apocrypha. I'm going to start at verse 15. For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, one political group against another, one race against another, citizen against foreigner, citizen against those in the government, Egyptian against Egyptian, and swords in their hands. And that modern day sword in America is the gun. Hey, the spirit of 1776 or 1861, whichever one you prefer. For there shall be sedition among men and invading one another, not talking it through, but invading. And sedition means conduct or speech inciting open rebellion against a ruling authority or monarch. Hey, forget the ballot box, We need to use the bullet box. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. And your modern day kings and princes are those in the government, mayors, governors, senators, the president, the authorities that uphold the system like the police or the military. It's going to get to the point to where a suit and tie or a badge or uniform isn't going to matter, as it says, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. Everybody's going to get it how they live out here. And, by any means necessary to push forward, their agenda or what? Protect themselves or their loved ones. And you can see a lot of people are in that seditious spirit and not regarding their kings nor princes. People are heavily going against the orders from Nero 47's regime. And with all this talk of, the midterms coming up, they're saying that, look, if we make it there, which Abaratazah we don't, and voting doesn't matter anyway, but, they're saying even if the Democrats win, Nero 47 is not going to secede power. So what? Even those within the kings and princes not regarding, each other. Verse 17, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. What does that sound like? A lockdown, a state of martial law, possibly instigated by what? Insurrection Act.
And one battle after another. It's really predictive programming, right? They're really trying to get people in the mindset of civil war, because ultimately at the end of the day, civil war is what benefits the oligarchy. One, because it prevents people from recognizing the true enemies, the oligarchy, but also remember that America is $38 trillion in debt. And so if your house is worth $1 million and you owe $10 million to the bank, what you do is you burn the house down and you collect the insurance money. And that's the game plan of the oligarchy.
And that's what the elites plan on doing, having a fire sale and a liquidation on the United States of America and the dollar, so that they can bring in that new system, that digital system, where everybody is ultimately going to have a micro C-hip implant in their hands or in their forehead. Of course, the mark of the BEAST in Revelation 13, verses 16 to 18. And these elites don't give a damn about you American citizens. Even though the elites are Edomites, you should look all throughout your history. What's that saying? All wars are bankers' wars. You Edomites' own elites have used you, for their own political goals. And now they're getting ready to throw you under the bus with these other nations out here. They've just got Nero 47 as the perfect figurehead, though, to keep you Edomites on the right, still believing in the system and that America's going to be made great again, which is not the case. But this is Isaiah chapter 14. I'm going to start at verse 12 and jump down. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? And this isn't talking about the fallen angels, Satan, who had a Mortal Kombat, fight with the Most High, and he was cast out of heaven. No, Lucifer simply means, light bringer, and it's speaking of a man. What does the root word say? From H1984. Hey, how fitting. 1984, a police state. In the sense of brightness, Lucifer, light bearer. And we're going to go down to definition A, of the king of Babylon, and Satan figuratively. And besides being known as Egypt in the scriptures, America is also known as what? Babylon the Great, Mystery Babylon, that virgin daughter. And while the face of America is the president, the king, so to speak, the true king over him are these elites, like your Rothschilds, your Rockefellers, these banking and secret families. So let's jump down to verse 20, because, this chapter's going into, the Lord taking you Edomites, the wicked, out of power. When you read up around verse 8, it says, thou hast broken the staff of the king of Babylon and the scepter of the rule of the wicked. Verse 19, well, verse 20. Thou shalt not be joined with them in burial. Talking about these other heathen nations, because while all heathens are going into slavery for the first 1,000 years of the kingdom of heaven, building it up, after that first 1,000 years, the nation of the Edomites are all going to be gathered up and permanently taken out of this planet by fire. That nation's going to be cut off. So, you won't be, you won't rest in peace, so to speak, because these other nations, even though they're still going to be under our subjection, they're going to be back in their lands, and they're going to be living under a righteous rulership of the Israelites, the true Israelites, who are known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today, governing this planet under the laws, statutes, and commandments of the scriptures. Thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed thy land and slain thy people. What did that Moabite just say? The oligarchs are going to use these Americans, especially you Edomite Americans, to fight against each other in a civil war and help in burning this place down. So like a phoenix from the ashes, they can rise up with that new digital NWO. The seed of evildoers shall never be renowned.
Okay, so it sounds, this is pretty scary. It sounds, but it makes sense. We see it all the time on the national nation against nation level, that elites will sit in their like Oval Office, or they'll sit, in their war rooms, or and they'll sit there and they'll throw bodies out of war. They'll throw soldiers out of war, and they don't even think twice about all of the young men and women who are going to be killed in civilians, children who are going to be killed in a war. And so you're saying that, like a soldier for the generals and the elites, the average citizen is actually a soldier for the oligarchs. They view us as the same sort of, they just view us as soldiers, and that we're going to fight their battles for them.
That is right. That is unfortunately right.
Hey, thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed thy land and slain thy people. But that's it with this clip. But as we can see, biblical prophecy continues to move forward at an ever increasing pace. As it says in Habakkuk chapter 2, though it tarry, wait for it will surely come. It will not tarry. And also Matthew 24, and except those days should be shortened, no flesh should be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Here we are, at the midpoint, damn near past the midpoint of January, and it's only felt like a couple of days in the first month. So these times are especially ramping up, and best believe these elites know that as well. So they're going to ramp up in pushing through their agenda. Revelation 12, verse 12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe or destruction to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. Hey, you people outside of the elect, especially you Egyptians, you Americans, for the devil, that deceiver, Esau, Edom, specifically their elites, Lucifer, the Illuminati, which, Illuminati goes into what? Illumination. For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And all the pieces are put in place for the blood of you Americans to flow through the streets of Egypt. But that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere, Akim and Akwath, were edified. Just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babol, Kwam Yasharallah, and until next time, Shalom.